Hi, everybody. I'll start with an opening statement here. Usually that's not what I do, but in this case, I'll just start with this. First, I'd like to thank Torts for everything he did, the work that he put into this team and this organization over the last 3 years. Something we want to make sure and address and really say thanks to him for that. You've seen this team play hard over the years. They've showed they have a no-quit attitude ingrained in them. Torts is a very, very big reasons for that and that standard that he set back in place over the last 3 seasons. Unfortunately, at this time, I felt it was time to go in a different direction, and that starts tonight. I know we have 9 games left, but they're 9 important games for us. I'm looking forward to evaluating our team and continuing to build this team into the summer. So again, thanks to Torts for what he did for us in the last 3 years.
Open up for questions. Danny, can you just why the timeline? Why now?
I felt it was time, and you're going to ask me, is there one thing that happened? It's not one thing. It's a series of things that have happened, and probably a little bit more in the last 3 weeks that has escalated since probably around the trade deadline, right after that. So, like I said, it's not one thing specific. It's an accumulation that have happened, but probably more often lately.
Those comments, obviously, he made on Tuesday after the Maple Leafs game, I'm sure you saw. Did that play any role whatsoever in the decision you made?
It's one of the things that have happened along the way. That's not the specific reason, and there's not one specific reason. It's one of the things that have happened along the way. There's been different ones as well. So it's not don't just focus on that. I'm not going to get into the specifics of what we dealt with. That's not fair to Torts. We both have opinions, and it doesn't mean that mine is better than his. I don't want to get into that. But we had just some different opinions on different things.
The difference of opinions, was that more about the way things are now or plans for the future?
No, we always had them along the way. And look, Torts is a complicated man. He's a complicated coach. He's a blast to work with because he challenges you. I truly believe he made me a better GM. I loved working with him, and I think he loved working with me. He's not a yes man, and he had opinions, and he's earned the right to share his opinion, and we listened to him. But again, myself, Keith Jones, Dan Hilferty, we felt at this time it was time to move in a different direction.
Danny, a big part of what improved in the team over the last couple of years was the structure. Did you feel that the structure was starting to fall apart?
Well, I'm not ready to blame Torts for that. The reality is we've made some tough trades that we feel are going to set us up for the future, but in the present time put us at a disadvantage. So it's probably not fair to blame Torts or our coaching staff for that, or it was just. The reality is that we felt there were trades that we needed to make at this time to set us up better for the future. Torts was on board with that. He understood that was part of the plan, and that was part of the phase of the rebuild that we were in. So that was not an issue.
Danny, did you get a sense at all like the losing started to wear on him a little bit? He's a pretty competitive guy.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think not just on him, but on all of us. It's not easy, and that's probably that's the toughest part of the rebuild is going through this. Now, I really hope that this is the bottom. This is rock bottom for us today, and this is the turnaround. the trades were tough. They were tough to send some good players elsewhere and not really replace them in the trades. There were a lot of call-ups, younger guys, and guys that we want to see. So that makes it tough for the team, makes it tough for the coaches. So yes, that was taking a toll on all of us, and Torts included. He hates losing more than probably anybody we know. But I hope moving forward, and I have the feeling that moving forward now it's going to start to get better. And now it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take time. But I feel we're stepping into a different phase of the rebuild. It's still a rebuild, but I feel starting to go into a different phase now.
How do you feel he handled the younger players? And did you get any input from the players in the room before you made this decision?
This had nothing to do with the players. We didn't get any input from the players, but at the same time, we're very close to the room. Jonesy and I are always around. We know what's going on, or we're maybe not everything, but we're pretty aware of what's going on and how things are going. I think Torts did a great job with the young guys. His approach to it, to making them pros, has really helped a lot of guys. Now, everybody reacts differently. There's guys that probably didn't work quite as well, but overall, I think he's done a tremendous job, helping our young guys take a next step, become better leaders and better players on the team.
Were there any discussions about him joining management for the final year of the contract? And if so, did the fact that he made public comments that he didn't want to be in management factor into this at all?
I didn't even see his comments, to be honest with you. I didn't see the comments, but no, there was no discussion about that. To me, Torts is a coach. That's his strength. I still see the passion. Now you have to ask him if that's, I shouldn't overstep here and say he still wants to coach, but I still see a passionate man that can still coach.
You mentioned about the post-game comments were just one of many things, but that they were part of it. He said after the game basically that he had little interest in learning how to coach this situation. I guess, do you think that he meant that? Was that poorly worded? What was your evaluation of that?
I feel there's probably more the frustration of the game and getting shellacked there in Toronto, the embarrassment that we all felt, and especially it's even tougher. Like I'm a little removed from that, being up in the press box. I remember being there as a player, and it's tough. It's really tough, and the coaches are right there with the players, and they hear everything. They're in the action with them, so I tend to be careful with that and not put too much stock into it. I think it was I put it more as a he was frustrated with how things have gone lately, and he was embarrassed by the loss that night, just like a lot of our players were.
But I guess, was there concern that the players would take that to mean that their coach wasn't fully invested anymore in them?
I don't know. I didn't have the time really to dive that deep down into it, and now it's really not important anymore. So.
And Brad has a chance to show you something in a different capacity.
Sorry, what?
Brad has a chance to show you something in a different capacity over the next 9 games. But where are you guys at in your process, and what type of coach fits with the phase you're headed into?
We're not there yet. This happened really quick in the last few days. It's not like we have anything prepared. We haven't started looking or making lists or anything like that. We have bigger things to deal with right now, making sure the mindset's in the right place, helping out Brad and his staff, addressing the team, all these things. The focus has been on the team and on the players. There's 9 games left. We're not going to bring a different coach. Brad is the coach to finish the season. We'll be evaluating him and our coaches the rest of the way. That's going to be part of it. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be looking for as a coach. One thing I can tell you is we have a young team, a coach that can teach is going to be important to start with. But as far as all the traits, I think it's a little too early to really dive deep into that.
What is the message in the last 9 games to the players?
So when I addressed the guys this morning, I asked them to stick together. And I told them, I said, if you don't feel like you're up to it and you don't feel like you want to play tonight, think about the guy next to you. He might be up for a contract year. He might be trying to save his job just to finish the year in the NHL. I play for each other, basically, is what the message was for them. That's the expectation, and I feel good about our group. They've never quit. They've always played hard. It's been tough lately, and part of it I'm responsible. With the trades and leaving the team where it's at. But one thing I'm proud of them is how hard and the no quit attitude that our coaching staff have put in place in the last few years.
You go back to last season, you guys are in a playoff spot, second week of March or whatever
Yeah.
it was. And, there were maybe some questionable decisions on his part. I don't know if you agree with it or not, but is there anything in your evaluation of him that dates back to last season, that things that maybe he could have done better, that maybe you were worried about might repeat themselves over these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's things that happen that leave scars. I mean, it's just the real world. It affects certain players more than others. Maybe a little bit. I don't know to which degree, but there's certain things obviously that you keep an eye out and watch for that have happened in the past. Yes.
Do you think getting so close to the playoffs last year, changed towards his expectations for this season, and they weren't met? And for your rebuild process, was that ultimately? Have you thought about whether it was a detour?
I can't answer for Torts. Not for me. I kind of knew that, and I think, look, last year we gave Torts a lot of credit and his staff for taking the players to where they did and being in a playoff position at the trade deadline, and where we were in our situation, in our rebuild and timeline, we felt we cannot pass up the assets that we were getting in return for Sean Walker, and I know it hurt us, but thinking about the long-term future, it was something we couldn't pass up, and again, it's probably hurt us. But for me, no, I still knew that, and it was tough reading some of the comments and that were out there that okay, this year was going to be the year. I knew in my guts that we were still going to go through at least another tough year this year. I knew it was still we weren't out of the woods, and we were still part of that deep down rebuild, and we've seen this year. But I'm sure there's a little part of it, especially for the players and the coaches that are in the fight every day. You get so close to the playoffs, you're coming back the following year, and I love that attitude about our players and our coaches. But for me, and I think Jonesy as well, I think there's a reality there that we knew that there's a good chance we would take a step back, and unfortunately it happened.
You mentioned
now you're in another phase.
What's that?
What makes you think that now you're in another? What has led you to believe that you're entering a new phase of your rebuild?
Well, you look at the assets, the players that we've traded. Those were the players that we felt it was time for them to go elsewhere when we got our assets back. When I look at the team now, I feel good that those are the guys that will help us moving forward. And it's a young team, and it shows at time that the lack of experience, but the excitement of icing a young team and the prospects that are coming makes it very exciting for me. And I'm not saying that next year we'll take a huge step forward. It's going to be small steps. The patience part is the hardest part of a rebuild, but I feel at this time it's rock bottom.
If you have a young team, do you need a younger coach?
What's that?
If you have a young team, do you need a younger coach in your mind?
Not necessarily. We're not gonna close off any coaches because of their age. if they're the appropriate coach, we're going to keep everything open. We don't want to limit ourselves to it, but at the same time, if a young coach fits the bill, then yeah, we might go for it. It might. Again, it's probably a little too early for me to start diving into that. We haven't made a list of coaches yet, so we'll deal with that in times. Shortly. It's not going to take very long, but as of today, I don't have anything on that.
Danny, you mentioned a few minutes ago that this came together pretty quickly over the last couple of days. You also said earlier that this wasn't just one thing, that it was over the course of a few weeks, starting kind of with the trade deadline.
Yep.
Was making a coaching change a serious consideration for you before these last couple of days, or is that new?
No, it's pretty new. I think it really got serious in probably the last few days, I would say.
You mentioned before the season you were excited for Matvei Michkov to play under
Yeah.
John Tortorella.
Yeah.
How do you feel that went?
I think it was a tremendous experience for Matvei to learn from a hard, passionate coach. He coached him hard, and I think he's done a fantastic job. Now, Matvei is one of the most competitive hockey player I've been around, so that fit well too. Not everybody is able to take the hard coaching that John Tortorella put on Matvei. I mean, I've been amazed by how he's responded to it. You've seen him get benched, you've seen him get scratched, and what does he do? He comes back and all he wants to do is stick it back to you or stick it back to Torts. It was really impressive. Every time he was challenged, this competitiveness just rose to the top, and he took over games. So I think it was great. I think Torts did a tremendous job with Matvei.
Danny, do two more. John really kind of had a chair at the table in terms of evaluation and kind of being one of the faces of the rebuild. Like, did that make it a little more challenging to?
Absolutely. We respected Torts a lot. He had a big say. We valued his opinion. Absolutely. And he's earned that. He's been around the game so long. He's been in so many dressing rooms. And when we talked about the culture, I mean, we trusted him, with the culture of the team. And in that regard, I think he's done a fantastic job. So yeah, his opinion was valued.
Danny, with
Last one.
9 games left, and given all the changes in the roster, how imperative is it for the veteran leaders to really lead by example, to play the right way through the final 9 games?
Yeah. Well, one thing I can tell you there is, Torts has a big presence. It's not always easy for certain players to step up and take on a bigger leadership role in the locker room. So, without his presence in the room, I hope a few of those guys, step up and take a bigger role. I think it might make it a little easier, and not just the older guys too. I know there's guys along the way that have probably earned, to the rights to step up and be a little bit more vocal. So I hope we start seeing that now.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you, guys.